Alright, welcome back for the reassembly video portion of this Apple iPhone 6. So we need to go ahead and basically do this in the exact opposite order that we did in the last video. We're going to start with the metal backplate that goes over the backlight here and the top of this ribbon cable here at the top. So we're just going to go ahead and slide it up so it butts up just and lines up with all of the screw openings. Now this cable right here at the bottom where we took the home button off of, you'll see there's a little groove down here where the cable kind of sits up and back. Just kind of use your spudger or pry tool to kind of just line it up. You can wait to do this until after you've put all the screws in if you want to, or you can do it at the beginning. Sometimes it has a little bit more adhesive than others, so it might just stick right back down. Other times you may have to give it a little bit of time. We'll go ahead and start with our first screw just down here at the bottom. Now these screws don't have to be extremely tight, they just need to be nice and snug. Just work our way around. Now you do want to make sure they're nice and snug and flush to the metal housing you're putting them into. The screw sides that you're putting in on the side part of the screen here actually are mounting into the brackets where it clips back into the frame of the phone. You don't want to have any of that hitting against the frame as you're trying to reinsert this back into the body of the phone. One last screw to go for this metal back plate here. Alright, so we have that put into place. I'm going to go ahead and just mess with this cable. It's a little bit longer. Make sure we get it lined up right with the little post or bezel portion you can see that it fits into. Go ahead and put in our home button. Now it should still have some adhesive on it. If not, you can just use a little tiny dab of super glue just on the gasket to get this to sit back in. Sometimes you don't even have to do that. You can just leave it free floating since it has a few screws in the back. Go ahead and reconnect the home button ribbon cable. Just kind of press down on the chip portion of it. There's a couple posts where it sits in, so make sure you put the chip portion of the home button back in its correct place before you try to put the metal housing on. So go ahead and line up the metal housing. It goes on top of the metal back plate we just put in the upper left hand corner. Two screws, one on the bottom right and then the next one through the back plate in the upper left hand corner of this home button plate. I like to double check it, make sure that it functions properly before you go too much further. Alright, our next step after that is to go ahead and put our cable in here for the top of the phone. One of the key things to do here is to line up the proximity sensor into the right area, the two little pieces here. I'll pull it out here in just a second and I'll show you. So we want to line this up right into its correct space and just push down with your spudger so it fits in. Take the proximity sensor, put it into the correct little plastic portion. One thing that'll make it easier is if you put the ribbon cable back into the correct order of where it came out of. Now once you get the proximity sensor into its correct slot, you'll see that the cable will kind of sit down nice and flush. There's two little prongs at the top of it that you can basically see come through the cable. Once you've done that, it'll sit nice and flush. Go ahead and take our earpiece speaker and go ahead and put that on. You'll see that the metal portion faces outwards. There's a little tiny kind of outward portion that has a slot that it fits into. So just wiggle it around until it feels nice and snug. Everything should line up properly on the ribbon cable. You can see that the prongs will come all the way through those little posts I was talking about, all the way through to this metal bracket here that we're putting on. Just kind of, we see it wiggle it back and forth with my finger until it fits in nice and snug. We'll go ahead and put our screw in. I'll put in the middle screw. That'll help it remain steady as we put the rest of the screws in. So there's our first screw. We have 2 more to go. All right, and just one in the upper left-hand corner here. Excellent, and that is the reassembly of this new screen here. Our next step is to go ahead and install this into the phone again. Alright, so the next step is to take our screen and go ahead and take these ribbon cables and press them back in on top of their connectors. Now, this can be a little bit tricky if you've never done this before. You don't want to press very hard on them. Just try to line them up and give them a firm pressure. He'll them kind of click into place, but make sure you press down on both sides of the cable to make sure it's securely positioned. Sometimes the screen will mistouch or get ghosting if you don't put these down correctly for the touch screen. It can be a little bit tricky, so just line it up, wiggle it around a little bit if you need to, and then press down firmly but not extremely hard. Sometimes the cable's cut funny and it won't be exactly center that you'd think it would be on the cable itself. Now once I have them all connected, I just kind of run my finger over them all, make sure they're all pressed down nice and snug. Go ahead and take our metal shield here, put that back on top. Remember not to let the screen go more than about a 90-degree angle. You don't want to damage any of the cables that we just connected. So one trick that I use is basically take the screwdriver, position the screw on top of it, and then push it into the slot. That way you're not trying to fiddle with these little tiny screws and get them to go in. It's easier for me to do it this way. So take the screw, put it correctly on top of the tip of the screwdriver, and then put it in. Three more screws to go. Just one more. Excellent. Now the next step is to go ahead and reconnect our battery connector here. Just go ahead and press that down, then take the metal shielding and put that right over the top of it. We need to put in our screws here at the bottom. You see my screen jump a little bit here. I had to basically stop the camera and mess around with the screws, and then it followed my own statement and got a couple of them mixed up. It took me a second to figure out which one went where. We have both of those back in. We take the top of the screen, we're going to slide it in towards the top of the device, and then press down on the sides and clip down as you go. Do each side, then make sure the bottom is nice and snug. The next step is to go ahead and put in our 2 pentalobe screws in the bottom of the phone. And again, nice and snug, but do not over tighten. These are easy to strip out. So take your time. Alright, there we go. We'll go ahead and power on the device here real fast. And that is how you replace a screen on an iPhone 6 Plus If you do have any questions, go ahead and throw them down in the comments. I'll do my best to get to those and answer them. If you found the video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. I'd appreciate that. If you want to see any future repair videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I try to come out with a couple a month. I do everything from high-end phones to maybe the lower or mid-range phones as well. I really appreciate you watching the video, and I hope to see you on the next one.